Yep, that time of the week again. High school football talk with Bobby. Thanks so much for coming by, man.
You're welcome.
First, let's talk about the game you had last week. One of the, what seems to be several weekly Northside ISD showdowns just about every single Friday, Saturday, not to mention Thursday. But this past week, you had Jay and Stevens in a game that could determine a lot going down the line.
Well, Jay is in a position where they need to win out, and if they do, they'll make the playoffs. And they got the game against Stevens. Stevens played pretty good defense against Jalen Hastings, minus 2 runs, but they were 2 really big runs that set up scores for Jay, and the Mustangs were able to pull away. And the surprising part is, with Zeno and Hastings, everyone kind of knew Jay would probably be a pretty good offensive team. It's turned out that they're maybe not as good overall offensively as they were last year, maybe a little better defensively, as they kind of shut Stevens down.
Yeah, when I say that's the game that they had last week, I mean the high school football showcase as opposed to Texas Sports Radio Network, which covers just about all the games throughout South Texas. So
We try.
I know, right? It seems like you do. Want to get your thoughts on this past week. We talked to Judson, Smithson Valley last week heading into Friday, and how even though the records didn't match up to what would be maybe the traditional clash that has been in years past, it was still interesting because it's still Smithson Valley.
Right.
That being said, the fact that Judson was able to do what Judson was able to do, I'm assuming you find that very impressive.
Well, yeah. I mean, think about the streak that Smithson Valley had. They had scored in 282 consecutive games. I don't know if that's the local record. It's got to be. If it's not, it's pretty darn close. But 282 straight games they scored in. Judson shuts them out. So that's a pretty impressive feat by the Rocket defense. And, Smithson Valley, I think they're still in pretty good position to make the playoffs. But there's a chance they make the playoffs with a losing record because they had the one game canceled. So if they lose to Steele this week, which is a possibility, they could finish the regular season 4-5 and likely face a Lake Travis in the first round. So the Rangers have some work to do.
Okay, now looking forward to this week, your high school football showcase game on Saturday, O'Connor and Clark.
Yes. Cougars are they're in a bad spot. I mean, they have to win out and get help. But, they played okay last week, and they lost to Brennan, but they were toe-to-toe with them, which means that Coach McGee's team seems to be improving. O'Connor, this is the first, besides the first game of the season, we get the undefeated team. O'Connor ran the table last year. They went 10-0 for the first time in school history, and they're in line to do it again. So, but they have to beat Clark on Saturday night, and that's a rivalry game. I mean, that one goes back a ways, where Clark and O'Connor have really had some great games over the years, and we expect another one Saturday night.
Is it possible that O'Connor's the most underrated, not underrated team out there? And when I say that, am I not making sense?
No,
when I say that is, look, they're
going.
undefeated.
Right.
They went through an entire regular season undefeated last year.
Right.
Deeper into the playoffs.
Right.
Yet it still seems like we talk about 2, maybe 3 of the programs before we get to them locally.
Right. Well, they've been successful for a while, but they had some failures in the playoffs over the course of time against the Judsons and the Steeles of the world and the Smithson Valleys. But now, a semifinal appearance several years back, a quarterfinal appearance last year, an undefeated regular season. They're doing it again this year. I mean, you have to start looking at O'Connor in the same conversation with the Judsons and the Steeles and the Smithson Valleys as an elite program in this city. And what makes them unique in the Northside ISD is they're one of those that they really have their own community. And with Helotes, that is O'Connor. Everybody else is kind of city-bound, so to speak, but O'Connor has their own unique community, and the fans show up, and they're very enthusiastic about Panther football. It's a fun deal. O'Connor is a fun program to watch.
And watch O'Connor and Clark right here at KCWX, Saturday night, the high school football showcase, usual 7 o'clock kickoff. Bobby, thanks for the time, man. We appreciate it.
We'll see
you next week.
Thank you.